Hey all, Glenn Kirschner here. Please enjoy this video on the Political Voices Network.
You know, and obviously the question everybody asking, including you, is you said Navarro's convicted for defying a congressional subpoena. Hey, DOJ, now do Jim Jordan. Mm-hmm. And that's what I was saying, Glenn, is I think there's a feeling of people being above the law. We're like, what about these insurrectionists in Congress or people that defied subpoenas or Clarence Thomas's wife? Like, what do you feel like is happening? Because it feels like, oh, is there some protective shield because he's in Congress for some reason?
It feels that way, and it's really disheartening because there's no justice if there's not equal justice. Jim Jordan committed the exact same crime as Peter Navarro, contempt of Congress. But for some reason, the institutions of government have protected Jim Jordan. Not only Jim Jordan, but Mark Meadows committed that crime. Dan Scavino committed that crime. And it really kind of makes a mockery of an equal application of the law if you only prosecute the people who are not office holders, who are not high government officials in the executive branch. The rule of law has to be applied equally. And, you reap what you sow, because now Jim Jordan is interfering, obstructing in the RICO prosecution in Georgia. Why is he in a position to do it? Because we haven't held him accountable for his last batch of crimes. And
he has the gall, the cojones to issue his own subpoenas? Yeah. And expect them to, this is a legal term, but Fani Willis told him to stuff it, basically, didn't she?
Yeah, Fani Willis, but here's what we have to do next, because telling somebody to stuff it when they commit a crime makes us feel good in a moment. Steph, here's what must happen, and if there's no other takeaway from today. Because Fani Willis has put in writing that Jim Jordan obstructed a criminal investigation in her state, what you now do is you present that evidence to a Georgia state grand jury and you ask them if there's probable cause to indict Jim Jordan for a crime. That is the next step. And absent that next step, you're enabling Jim Jordan's crimes.
Yep. Let's talk. Speaking of which, you tweeted Enrico Tarrio, head of the Proud Boys, sentenced to 22 years in prison, but Trump, not Tarrio, is the true leader of the insurrection. I was just quoting Andrew Weissman, who said, it would be unimaginable that Trump gets less time than these foot soldiers, right?
Yeah, and Timothy Kelly, who is a Trump appointee, not that all Trump appointees are as bad as Aileen Cannon, but I think we have to watch them closely. I thought he did a fine job presiding over the Proud Boys conspiracy trial. I watched part of that in court. But when he said at Enrique Tarrio's sentencing that Tarrio was the, quote, ultimate leader and ultimate organizer of what happened on January 6th, I'm going to chalk that up to imprecise language, because we all know that Donald Trump was the ultimate leader and the ultimate organizer of what happened on January 6th, not Enrique Tarrio. So if Tarrio got 22 years, Donald Trump deserves life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Did it make you do a big, Austin Powers laughter scene, laughed in deep in your soul that all of these Proud guys were offered deals and rejected them all, and then got double the time they were going to get or something? I mean, it's this brazenness, isn't it? The same that Peter Navarro has. Joe Biggs said it. Trump's going to pardon me. He's going to get back in. He's going to pardon me. They all think they're going to get away with this ultimately, don't they?
Yeah, they're not going to be pardoned, because Trump is not going to get back in. He's ultimately going to be disqualified from the ballot, but that's another conversation. The ordinary course of our practice as prosecutors is, if you come on board early, particularly if you're willing to cooperate against other criminals, particularly bigger criminal fish, you're going to get a much better deal than if you refuse to cooperate. You refuse to join us in the hard work of justice after you've done so much wrong. You have an opportunity to do a little something right. Well, you want to go to trial, we're going to convict you, and you're going to get a much more severe sentence. That's the way the system works.
Yeah. I mean, Michael Cohen gave much the same advice to the other 18 co-defendants in J6. He said, my recommendation for them would be to speak now, because as soon as the guy next to you or the woman next to you starts speaking and spilling the beans, your information is not as important. It's not as significant. So the person really who starts to speak first is the one that will get the benefit. I assume that's got to be going on behind closed doors at this point, a little bit of panic, right?
Oh, yeah. 19 were indicted in Georgia. 19 will not go to trial. At a minimum, you're going to have fake electors who are already on record as saying we were acting at the direction of Donald Trump. That makes you the perfect cooperating witness. So, you know what? Let's try Trump and Giuliani and Powell and Eastman and Cheesebro and Ellis and Jeffrey Clark, the dirty DOJ official. Let's try them. Let's get them convicted. But the lesser players, let them plead out, let them testify against the bigger criminal fish. And it's all going to be televised, which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, exactly. And Cohen went on to say these are real sentences, talking about the time behind bars these guys are getting. He said, and Trump will have no problem selling out any of his co-defendants in order to protect himself. You would think they would know that by now. He made a good point. He said he pointed the finger at his own son, Eric, throwing Eric under the bus, referring to the New York case. If Eric can be thrown under the bus by Donald, what do you think Donald would do with someone like Mark Meadows or someone like Rudy Giuliani or Sidney Powell or the other co-defendants? Donald doesn't care about anybody but himself. So you would think they're aware of that. Let's talk. You mentioned Judge Cannon for a minute. This is what I was saying, Glenn. Is this the documents case almost seems like the most overwhelming to me in terms of evidence and cold hard evidence and this latest batch of stuff. But Judge Cannon really is the loose cannon, isn't she? As to Go ahead. What do you?
That's a case that tries itself on the evidence. It's so strong, and now that Donald Trump's own IT director at Mar-a-Lago has not only flipped but formally signed a cooperation agreement with Jack Smith, Donald Trump is sunk in that case. But as you say, the wild card, the uncertainty, is Aileen Cannon. She may try to, I don't think she can kill the case, but she can delay it until the end of time. And I think that's what we should keep an eye out for.
Yeah. Well, this latest story, I think we have like bombshell fatigue. Trump was directly warned to comply with a subpoena from the DOJ or face an FBI search at Mar-a-Lago. He was warned, but his attorneys backed off because they feared an outburst from him. This is the first time we're going to hear the Beaver Cleaver defense, and that people were afraid to get hollered at. Is that where we're at?
Hollered at and junk.
And junk.
Yes.
Yeah. Evan Corcoran, his then attorney, told Trump in person the FBI might get a search warrant if he didn't voluntarily return them. But another attorney told not to push Trump to comply. He's going to go ballistic, said the other attorney. Corcoran recorded a series of voice memos, which Jack Smith has, as you know, on the phone the day following to show how Trump allegedly tried to defy the federal subpoena, engage in what prosecutors have called a criminal conspiracy. We've got a grand jury subpoena. The alternative is if you don't comply with the grand jury subpoena, you could be held in contempt. Corcoran says he told Trump. Trump replied, what happens if we just don't respond at all or we don't play ball with them? Corcoran then told the former president the FBI could get the search warrant. So he said Corcoran, believed to be attorney 1, and Jennifer Little is believed to be attorney 2, told Trump that they needed to search for documents that would be responsive to the subpoena. Here's the most damning part. Glenn, I know you've heard this, but Trump said, I don't want anyone going through my boxes. Wouldn't it be better if we just told them we don't have anything here? How is that just not slam dunk obstruction? Let's just lie. I mean, that's what he's saying, right?
Yeah, once you get this case before a jury in Florida, and that is the uphill battle with Judge Cannon, you're going to have a Navarro-esque verdict. It's going to come back guilty, and it's going to come back guilty fast. And I think all of these people who are like, I'm so afraid that Donald Trump is going to yell at me, I think what that highlights, Steph, and Mark Meadows said the same thing in his testimony. I didn't want to be yelled at. Yeah. That's why I did stuff that was a little illegal-ish. What it highlights is the weakness of the people that choose to associate themselves with Donald Trump. How is it that you're afraid to tell somebody, listen, sport, you can't break the law because I'm afraid if I tell him he can't break the law, he'll yell at me. What's wrong with these people?
Yeah.